haven't had a chance to share this with you. The Auburn center, I'm trying to read this, Brandon Council, on Georgia's defensive front. If we can keep them out of their third down packages, we can demolish them. Brandon, what team have you been watching this year? Anyway, Tony B joins us. Tony, great to have you here. It's too loaded a question to ask you to comment on that, but I feel compelled to.
Well, I just appreciate the heads up from the Auburn center so that we know what to look for. I got a feeling, I think I heard you say this earlier in the show, I just have a hunch that Georgia's going to play well on Saturday. Could be wrong, but I think they will. I
don't think you are wrong here. I think we all misfired a couple of times, but Tony, let's talk about the Dogs, because I don't think Auburn really merits too much conversation from someone as learned as you. But the question that people are asking is, what's wrong with them? Are we hitting the panic button too much, or do you think this is something that we're going to see more of?
First of all, there's nothing wrong with Georgia. Now, they didn't play well the week before against Kent State, and then they went on the road to Missouri, and Missouri played well, particularly on the offense, on their defensive line. They whipped Georgia on the line of scrimmage for the first half of that football game. But over the course of time, the team that's deepest, the team with the most talent, usually wins, and Georgia took control of the game and began to run the ball. And so, you're going to have those kind of games on the road, but I think Georgia's a very good team and deserving of that number 2 or number 3 ranking, whatever it is.
Tony, let me flip it around and ask you about the Auburn situation, not the team. And it just seems like this painful drip continues with Brian Harsin. Give us your best read on that situation.
Paul, my best read, if we're going to be perfectly candid about it, it's not really a question of if, but a question of when. When is the timing right? And for what Auburn did with everything else that's happened at Auburn, for them to go up 17-0 and lose the game at home, you just can't do that. So it's painful to watch. In my only meetings with Brian Harsin, I was very impressed with him. I think he's a good football coach, but I think we both know enough. We've lived enough of watching Auburn over the years. We know that there's a change coming. It's only a question of when it comes.
Tony, we were down there recently, and you talked to students and others who maybe not as close to the situation, and it just sounds like Auburn is one long string of dysfunctionality. But in reality, they've had a lot of success, even with the meddling. You know all these people. You've been around them for many, many years. Is it really as bad as the perception? Or do those boys in the back room actually know what they're doing most of the time?
Well, it's a mixed bag. I mean, most of the time, us in the media tend to overreact to a lot of things. But the fact of the matter is they're in a bad place. But isn't it funny, Paul? Though, if you get the right coach, you can go from a bad place to a good place pretty quickly. Look at what Josh Heupel has done at Tennessee. They were more than a dysfunctional situation when they made a change there. And in 2 years, he has them in the top 10, and the fan base is as excited as I've ever seen them since the former Steve Spurrier days. So it's just a question of getting the right person as head coach.
Assuming that it is coming soon, and then the hunt for a new Auburn coach begins, who would be the right coach?
I keep hearing the name Hugh Freeze, and while there would be some discussions had and stuff, if you're looking for somebody who knows offense, who knows how to develop quarterbacks, who has had a lot of success in the SEC, I think he would be somebody you'd want to take a look at. I think a well-known coordinator, a guy like Bill O'Brien at Alabama, would he make that move? I don't know, but you've got to have somebody who understands the up-tempo game that will spread you out. You're not going to beat Alabama year in and year out playing smash mouth. You've got to spread the field and go up-tempo, and I think that's what Auburn has to do.
Speaking of being down-tempo, let me ask you about the plight of Jimbo Fisher. It's kind of hard to put somebody on the hot seat when it would cost nearly $100 million to buy him out, but it just seems like with another loss Saturday, he's edging toward a rather hot seat, whatever that means.
Well, this is a quality of life period of time. He's got to change the narrative. Okay, now, first of all, I don't think for 1 minute that Jimbo Fisher is going to get fired. I just don't believe that will happen given the circumstances. But the question is, what's the quality of life going to be? And you're talking about a $90 million buyout, and he's got the #1 recruiting class in this year. So I think there's a lot that will save him. But frankly, Paul, A&M is not a very good team. They don't do anything particularly well. Their defense was just manhandled last week and embarrassed. And so I don't know what the answer is, but I don't see any real answers right now.
But Tony, if you are in your 5th year and you did not take over a disaster, a situation like Josh Heupel did, with the coach fired and the NCAA knocking on your door, then why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't his job be on the line if they're getting manhandled in year 5, recruiting rankings notwithstanding? What has he really done there?
Well, I think that's a fair assessment, because you throw out the COVID year. I don't think that counts either way. And so I just think people are going to be upset. And again, Paul, I could be wrong here. I just don't see them pulling that trigger.
Well, no, but I understand that, Tony. But I'm trying to. If you're making a case, and I know you can't throw money out the window, although in Texas it really doesn't matter. I just wonder why he is getting a pass, though, because show me another major school in the SEC where you could be in year 5 having this happen to you, and people say, don't worry about it, he'll be okay. Next year is next year.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.